When talking about modern manga artists, Tatsuki Fujimoto is easily one of the most impactful, creating modern masterpieces like Chainsaw Man and Goodbye Eri, redesigning the Jump manga landscape. Fujimoto pretty much drew his entire life, attending special painting classes at an early age with his grandparents. He eventually graduated in Western painting at the Tohoku University of Art and Design in 2014. While still at school, Fujimoto submitted his first one-shot. A couple of chickens were still kicking in the schoolyard. While nominated for a Jump Square Monthly Award, it didn't win it. He sent another one-shot during his school days called Sense of Justice in 2013, which was an entry for the 10th Supreme Comic Grand Prize Season 2, which again didn't win. But his third work, Paper Planes, won a jury special award at the 3rd Shueisha Crown Newcomer Award in 2013. Fujimoto didn't stop sending in one shot, as he later submitted works like Sasaki Stop the Bullet and Love is Blind, and both also winning awards, with Love is Blind actually being published in Jump Square. His next one-shots were also all published, with Mermaid Rhapsody in 2014 and Nayuta of Prophecy in 2015. After half a decade of making one-shots, Fujimoto finally got a serialized work published in Shueisha's online magazine, Jump Plus. His manga called Fire Punch, ranking highly in many awards. While it never got an anime adaptation, it did slowly rise into popularity in the Western market as well. Fujimoto, who seemed to have enough time to write a weekly manga and write a one-shot, once again published a new one called Wake Up as a Girl Syndrome in 2017. However, after finishing Fire Punch in January of 2018, he took a year break between serialized manga, and during that time he again released another one-shot called Sisters in May of 2018. During his time with Fire Punch, several of his older one-shots were also now published in Jump Plus. At the tail end of 2018, a new serialized manga was released by Fujimoto called Chainsaw Man, for the first time in an actual magazine of Weekly Shonen Jump. Chainsaw Man started raking in awards one after another in its first few years, but after 2 years the manga stopped, only to be recontinued with a part 2 in the online manga website called Jump Plus. After the second part started and a hugely popular anime adaptation in 2020, Chainsaw Man was now more popular than ever, this time not just placing in list but ending up first, or earning Fujimoto the Shogakukan Manga Award. Chainsaw Man is still ongoing and is one of the most popular running mangas to date. But that doesn't stop Fujimoto for, yet again, creating another one-shot, this time called Look Back, gaining over 2 million views online in just his first day, and doubling that in the next few days. On top of winning several awards and being nominated for the 2023 Eisner Award, it also got its own anime adaptation, gaining theatrical releases in Japan, but premiering at the France Annecy International Film Festival. Fujimoto accomplished a lot in his 14 years of manga creation, and in those years several of his assistants joined Fujimoto in creating the one-shots or the serialized work people came to love. And many of those assistants went on to make their own manga, like Yuji Kaku, Tatsuya Endo, Yukinobu Tatsu, and Toru Karumori, with several of them having highly acclaimed manga or are on the way to become just that. One of the biggest influences in both the magical boy genre and the bishonen subgenre, Masami Kurumada has a long legacy of manga creation under his belt. As a child, Kurumada was a delinquent, spending his days fighting other kids. But after being inspired by Hiroshi Motomiya's manga The Ideal Man Boys Gang Leader, he decided to pursue a life as a mangaka. A total novice at art, he started using just ballpoint pens to draw. In his 3rd year of high school, he submitted his first work. He eventually went to Shonen Jump's editorial department asking why he was rejected, and in turn, he was hired as an assistant to the mangaka Inoue Ko, who was working on the manga Samurai Giants. His first professional manga debuted called Sakeban Arashi in Weekly Shonen Jump, but his actual first hit was Put It All in the Ring, a boxing manga that ran for 5 years in Weekly Shonen Jump and had 25 volumes. Among all his creations, Kurumada sees this manga as his favorite creation as it reflects on his own upbringing, on top of the influence this manga had on many on his following works. Also, Kurumada employs a certain technique when writing stories. This technique is called the Ozuma Tezuka Star System manga technique. Essentially, it's a mangaka resorting to reuse cast members from his previous works. Like one of the main characters of Put It All in the Ring, Ryuji Takane, reappeared under different names in several other manga. This technique, while named after Ozuma Tezuka, was also used by several other mangakas like Leiji Matsumoto, Monkey Punch, Shotaro Ishinomori, and Clamp. Clamp especially was heavily influenced by Kurumada's work, as they began their career as manga artists creating doujinshis based on Kurumada's characters. Kurumada has many manga titles under his name, and after Put It All in the Ring, he released several more mangas, but the one everyone knows him for is undoubtedly Saint Seiya. Starting in 1985, it was released during the golden age of Weekly Shonen Jump, along with Dragon Ball, Slam Dunk and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Saint Seiya was hugely popular, gaining an anime adaptation not even a year after its initial manga release. And while it was popular in Japan, it became huge in South America, Southern Mediterranean Europe, and specifically France, with Saint Seiya being one of the more significant players in making France the second biggest manga consumer in the world. After Saint Seiya, Kurumada has started and finished several more mangas like Beat X, Evil Crush Maya, and several sequels to Put It All in the Ring. But the thing he went back to the most was Saint Seiya, mostly writing side stories, though this time being published in magazines owned by Akita Shoten instead of Shueisha, with the actual sequel of Saint Seiya coming in 2006 and running all the way to 2024. Kurumada's work influenced many authors and other creators like the earlier mentioned Clamp, as well as people like Togashi and French movie director Louis Leterrier, saying that Saint Seiya inspired him, causing the eventual collaboration between the two when Louis was making the 2010 film Clash of the Titans, where Kurumada made promotional illustrations for the film, seeing as both Clash of the Titans and Saint Seiya were both about Greek mythology. For many, he was the introduction to hypersexual and hyper-violent manga. On top of this, Hiroya Oku also became known for his use in groundbreaking technology for creating manga. After reading Ozuma Tezuka's mangas The Vampires, when Oku was still in elementary school, seeing how Tezuka inserted himself into the story, becoming an active character in that said story, caused Oku to want to have the same creative freedom and decided to want to become a mangaka. After practicing endlessly, he finally sent in his first manuscript while still in high school to the Shogakukan Newcomer Comic Contest and received a honorable mention. Eventually, Oku ended up as Naoki Yamamoto's assistant. Oku's first solo work was Hen, published in the seinen manga magazine called Weekly Young Jump. Hen was a semi-finalist in the Shonen Jump Manga Awards. As his first manga, Hen showed exactly how Oku worked on the inside, a self-proclaimed man who loves large breasts. But his next manga, 01, added more to his arsenal than just large breasts, namely 3D. See, Oku was one of the pioneers combining 3D technology and hand-drawn stuff, where investments into the modern Macintosh computer and CG programs drained Oku's resources. He used those 3D CG programs to create extremely realistic backgrounds or technological items, but this took a lot of time and resources to make, more so than if he would just have hand-drawn them. But as he learned from his mistakes and allowed himself and his assistants to fully understand the capabilities and pros and cons of 3D CG, however, as 01 was getting published, it didn't do well enough to earn back those losses he made with the new technology. So he made the decision to quit the manga 01 and started a new one, using the lessons he learned from 01 and implementing them well into his next work, named Gantz. Gantz was an amalgamation of Oku's love for big-breasted women and the hyper-violence he will later be known for. A gruesome sexual modern fantasy, combining Oku's realistic and hand-drawn humans and combining it with the high-detail computer-generated backgrounds. Gantz ran from 2000 to 2013, and only a year later Oku released his second big hit, Inuyashiki, combining all the things he learned from his previous series and creating a more streamlined, shorter story than he did with Gantz, running from 2014 to 2017. And after Inuyashiki, he created Gigant. His last work, while not as beloved as his first two works, seemed to have built a fanbase, thanks to the detailed action and gigantic breasts. While working on Inuyashiki and Gigant, Oku also helped write the spin-off mangas of Gantz G and Gantz E, having the artwork done by different manga artists. Monkey Punch is the pen name of the mangaka Kazuhiko Kato. As someone who loved to draw, he never thought of drawing manga until he was in junior high, and did so for a school newspaper. After graduating, Kato moved to Tokyo, joined a doujinshi group with his brother and another friend, where his art style evolved from being inspired by Tezuka to being directly inspired by Western comic books. His doujinshi caught the eye of Shimizu Fumito, editor-in-chief at the publishing company Futubasha, and made his debut manga called Playboy School under the pen name Eiji Gamuta. However, Fumito suggested a different pen name for Kato's next project. The pen name Monkey Punch came up. Kato didn't like that name very much, but thanks to Fumito's persistence and the promise that the next project was only for 3 months, he decided to go with it. The next project was Lupin III, a manga based on the grandson of the famous fictional thief Arsène Lupin. Many people believed for a long time that the name Monkey Punch referred to the writer combo of the two Kato brothers. Kazuhiko Kato disproved this theory, saying, while they both write manga, every manga under the name Monkey Punch referred to Kazuhiko Kato as the one doing the characters, stories and main illustrations. Lupin III was a huge success in Japan, and because of the popularity, several sequel series of Lupin III were created, with even more animated media based on the IP, eventually finding similar popularity in the West. While in between writing Lupin III, Kato wrote several more stories like Dracula-kun, Pinky Pinky, Kaibu Zengata, and Cinderella Boy, with Cinderella Boy also having the guest cameo of Kato himself in the anime. In 2003, already a successful mangaka in his own right, Kato decided he can't get any further with his art, unless he actually studied. So he enrolled himself into Tokyo University of Technology and got himself a master's in media studies. And with this degree in 2005, he became the professor in manga and animation course at the Department of Media and Arts, guiding the next generation to create more. Kato received the Inkpot Award at the San Diego Comic Con, the Romix Gold Award at the Rome Comics Festival, the AMD Award for Lifetime Achievement, and the Shunbun Culture Award in Hokkaido, his own home prefecture. In 2017, he became an advisor at the Sapporo Manga and Anime College, and in 2019 he sadly passed away, with his wife by his side at age 81. Obsessed with writing stories when she was younger, Riyoko Ikeda filled her diary with folk tales, fairy tales, romantic stories, and more. While aspiring to be an academic, her father cut off her financial support after a year of school, forcing Ikeda to start drawing manga to make a living, with publishers denying her manga as they said her art style is too immature. So after 2 or 3 years of apprenticeship and living on the bare minimum, she was scouted by Kodansha and in 1967 published her first work, The Girl from the Rose Mansion. Influenced by the Shinso-yaku and the student movement during the late 60s in Japan, Ikeda joined the Democratic Youth League of Japan, shaping her views that will be visible in her future work. And in 1972, her biggest series was released, The Rose of Versailles, in Shueisha's own shoujo magazine called Margaret, a story loosely based on Marie Antoinette. It became one of the more influential shoujo titles of its era, shaping the shoujo demographic into what we are currently more familiar with. It was also during the time Rose of Versailles was released that many other influential shoujo mangas showed up, reinventing or revolutionizing the genre. These shoujo creators were later collectively known as the Year 24 group. Rose of Versailles ran for a year and ended in 1973. An anime was released in 1979. Ikeda wasn't one to sit still and released a new manga almost yearly, or sometimes even more in a year. And to respect everyone's time watching this video, I will go over the big ones like Dear Brother that came out in 1974, being more in line with other shoujos of that time as a girl attends a prestigious school, but with Ikeda's more mystical art style elevating it. This too gained a TV anime, but way further down the line in the 1990s, with the next 2 mangas afterwards also gaining significant popularity, The Window of Orpheus and Cloud9, with Window of Orpheus being Ikeda's longer running manga with 18 volumes, having its final volumes published in a more mature manga magazine, Monthly 17. While Cloud9 is one of the shortest stories that she worked on while working on Window of Orpheus. And while those 3 mangas were really popular on their own, the golden goose of Ikeda was always Rose of Versailles, as it was the first manga to be picked by the all-female theater group Takarazuka Revue and was made into a musical, boosting both the standing of the manga but also the musical group, growing its fame alongside its many performances of the Rose of Versailles musical, being the eventual trigger that caused Japan to produce 2.5D stage plays. Rose of Versailles also got a live-action movie produced and made in the West in 1979, under the name Lady Oscar. During the 1990s, Ikeda joined the vocal department in the Tokyo College of Music. After she graduated, she can be frequently found on the podium performing as well as releasing a CD in 2005, containing 12 songs composed by Marie Antoinette. In the same year, she also started drawing 4-panel comics for the Japanese newspaper Asahi Shimbun. In 2009, she was awarded the Legion of Honor, the highest French Order of Merit, for her involvement in making the Japanese youth interested in French history. From writing manga to directing movies, Katsuhiro Otomo knew how to entice us in the visual spectrum with some of the most unique stories ever. Otomo grew up in the countryside, so there was basically nothing for him to do but read or draw, oftentimes just copying the manga Astro Boy or Tetsujin 28. When he read Shotaro Ishinomori's introduction to manga artists while in junior high, Otomo decided to seriously consider becoming a manga artist. By the time he entered high school, Otomo developed an interest in movie, and for a time left manga drawing to pursue his interest in movies, with the two interests battling for dominance in his mind. However, manga won initially, and Otomo wrote his first work in 1971, submitting it and several others directly to Osamu Tezuka's magazine Come. When he graduated from high school, Otomo contacted an editor at Futabasha, who had previously shown his work to, and was hired. His professional debut was in 1973, called A Gun Report. He followed that up with several slice of life short stories, slowly getting known as one of the new wave artists in manga. When he had his version of the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale published, he felt like he should expand his vision and make stories not just for sci-fi or action magazines. Having published his first book, which was a collection of his own earlier works, he started to become better known in the public and also started to make connections with other new wave writers. In 1982, after several years of publishing short manga stories, Otomo started publishing his first masterpiece, and probably his most famous, Akira in Weekly Young magazine. It was an instant hit, and thanks to its success and the name recognition and money he got from that single manga, he got to produce the live-action movie Freedom for Us, becoming his first dabbling into filmmaking. In the following year, in 1983, Otomo participated in an anime production for the anime Genma Taisen as character designer, where he gained more experience and learned the difference between manga and anime production, sparking an interest in anime. Genma Taisen was produced by Madhouse, and the co-founder of Madhouse, Masao Murayama, approached Otomo after the anime aired. Impressed by Otomo's skills and asked if he wanted to direct a short film, Otomo of course accepted it immediately. The first time he actually got to direct something was with the anthology film Labyrinth Tales. Produced by Madhouse, this film was a compilation of different stories by different screenwriters and directors, one of those being Katsuhiro Otomo, who directed and written the construction cancellation order segment of the movie. From the experience he gained directing the short film, Otomo felt confident enough to direct a movie for one of his own manga, and you can probably guess which one it is. The Akira movie slid onto the screen in 1988, and was just like his manga, an instant success. But not just in Japan. The Akira movie found success all over the world, primarily in the States, inspiring a whole generation of Western filmmakers. And after directing Akira, Otomo shifted focus from writing manga to directing movies, like the animated original movie Steam Boy or the live-action movie Mushishi. In 2012, he produced his first exhibition for his own original drawings, in the Katsuhiro Otomo's Genga exhibition. It was the world's largest exhibition of original drawings by a manga artist, with 3,000 original drawings on display, with 30% of the proceeds going to the organization helping for the recovery efforts of the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011. Otomo still drew some mangas or comics in this time. One of the bigger ones was his contribution in issue 4 of Batman Black and White. Other than that, he's been writing and directing movies, with the movie Orbital Era being announced in 2019. The god of shoujo manga, Moto Hagio, is probably one of the most important people when talking about manga creation. Drawing from an early age, Hagio was also a very early fan of manga. Sadly, her education-focused parents forbade her from reading manga. However, in 3rd grade, after developing her drawing skills, her parents decided they should help her develop her skills for art and encouraged her to attend an art school and learn oil painting. Hagio also became very engrossed with Western stories like Arsène Lupin and Alice in Wonderland, as well as the stories written by Helen Keller. In junior high, she met a friend who eventually became known as the manga artist Harada Ran, who gave Hagio advice on how to draw manga, how to improve, and the biggest piece of advice was submitting your manga to publications. And after being inspired by Tezuka's manga Shinshengu, she decided to finally go for it and become a mangaka by submitting a manga to magazines. though no immediate success. Hagio joined a fan manga magazine, Kirox, thanks to her friendship with Harada Ran. After graduating high school, Hagio enrolled in the Nippon Designer Academy to study clothing design. She eventually submitted a total of 10 manga, one of which won the Gold Prize in May 1968 issue of Basetsu Margaret. That winning manga is called When a Mini Lady Falls in Love. However, this winning manga was never published, with her second work, Blue Sky and Prince, getting silver. After reconnecting with Harada Ran, who was now an assistant at Tezuka Productions, she also met the god of manga himself, Osamu Tezuka, the person who inspired her to become a manga artist many years ago, for the first time in her life. But it was her connection with fellow manga artist Hirata Makiko that she finally got an in at Kodansha's Nakayoshi magazine, who requested from Hagio to submit a short piece of work, which Hagio finished within 2 weeks, submitting the 20 pages of her debut one-shot Lulu to Mimi, which was published in the summer vacation special edition of Nakayoshi magazine. After that, she ended up being the assistant of Takemiya Keiko for one night and lived with her in Tokyo. After working as an assistant, Hagio continued sending in manuscripts, but most of her works were rejected with the exception of Bianca and KK Cake. Keiko introduced Hagio to an editor as Shogugakan. However, just as before, her manuscripts were rejected. While living with Keiko in Tokyo, most of Hagio's days were spent competing for a spot in a shoujo manga, competing with the same woman that would later become the Year 24 group, until eventually she took her storyboard to Shoujo Comics editor Junja Yamamoto, and with the moral support of Takemiya Keiko, who joined her during this trip, Hagio was finally recognized for her potential, where Yamamoto let her draw freely and do as she pleases. It was during this time that she began to show her true talent. Her first manga that got published and serialized is Po-Clan, a compilation of non-chronological stories set in Europe between the 18th and 21st century, following the same set of characters, all immortal vampires, with the series being just as immortal as it was revived 40 years later after its original run in 2016. The Heart of Thomas was the next big story from this period. Inspired by the French movie Angel of Sorrow, Hagio wrote the story so that the main character could find redemption. The story wasn't popular at first, edging on cancellation, but thanks to the rising popularity of the print manga of Po-Clan, giving more worth to the name Moto Hagio, The Heart of Thomas continued on with 33 chapters. Trying to get rid of the dark image The Heart of Thomas gave, Hagio released a romantic comedy manga, This Girl's for Sale, along with the original Among Us in the manga called They Were 11. In 1976, she won the 21st Shogakukan Manga Award for both Po-Clan and They Were 11. In 1980s, to reflect on the relationship with her parents, she began studying psychology, and to break free from her inner parent, she started serializing Mesh, a work themed around parasites. Interested in stage plays and ballet, Hagio decided to co-write a screenplay for Hanshin, as well as writing and performing several ballets herself. She also started working for anime as character designer, her first work being Time Stranger. She continued writing ballets in 1990s, but that didn't stop her from also working on mangas as well, like The Cruel God Reigns, which won her the Tezuka Otsuma Cultural Prize for Manga Excellence. Hagio never fully stopped writing, either taking short breaks or breaking into completely uncharted genres for her. Though she also wrote in completely charted territories, like going back to the 40-year-old series, the Po-Clan, and continuing it to this day. Hagio also is a visiting professor at the University of Art and Design. In her lifetime, she received many titles like the Medal of Honor for Academic and Artistic Development, Improvement and Accomplishment, the Comic Book Hall of Fame, the Order of the Rising Sun, and many, many more. A fashionista turned mangaka, Ai Yazawa has shown the world of manga that characters can drip, while writing some of the most impactful stories of her generation. As an avid reader of manga magazines at age 10, Yazawa always had a knack for drawing, submitting her first work at age 12 at the manga magazine Ribbon. And around the age of 15, she began submitting her works more consistently, gradually improving and climbing the ranks. Yazawa was always a big fan of singer-songwriter Eikichi Yazawa, and decided to take his surname as her own pseudonym. She eventually had the opportunity to meet professional artists and other contributors at Ribbon. That experience deeply inspired her and decided to seriously aim to become a manga artist. However, even with that determination, it took her until her 10th submission to secure a debut, with some guidance from an editor. She was still in school at the time and unsure whether she could truly make a living as a manga artist. So after graduating, she enrolled into a stylist school to keep her options open. When her first serialization was confirmed, she had to choose between manga manga and her other dreams. While it was a bittersweet decision to set aside those other aspirations, she fully focused on manga, claiming, "As a manga artist I could be a scriptwriter, director, set designer and costume designer, all in one, and express it all through my art. This job combines everything I love." Her first serialization was Love Letter, and among many of the other work were short stories that lasted for one volume. And most of her stories wouldn't break any record or blow her into popularity until the end of the 1990s, where she released 3 stories that all got quite popular: Last Quarter of the Moon, Paradise Kiss, and Nana. Nana was unique as it came forth from the publisher's request for Yazawa to create 2 short stories for the launch of a new magazine, Cookie. Yazawa decided to make these short stories related, so that when these short stories were picked up for an actual full serialization, they were easier to read. These 2 stories eventually became Nana, which won Yazawa the Shogakukan Manga Award. Nana became Yazawa's longest running manga series with 21 volumes as of now, and is still ongoing. Well, technically on hiatus, but we will get to that. While Nana was being published, Yazawa still illustrated the cover of Rumi Shishiro's album Rumi Roll in 2003, and in 2009 Yazawa became hospitalized after falling ill, putting Nana in indefinite hiatus. While recovering from her illness, Yazawa stated in 2022 that she still has interest in continuing the work. During the hiatus of Nana, Yazawa mostly focused on drawing, providing artwork for Juju's single Iwaka in 2017 and a celebratory illustration for Space Channel 5 VR. In 2022, Yazawa held an exhibition titled All Time Best, featuring original manga manuscript and illustrations for the series she created. The final frontier has been broken by Leiji Matsumoto as his manga and anime reach outer space and further beyond. While attending elementary school, he became an avid reader of manga and formed a doujinshi group with Kenshiro Tekai and others, leading to the publication of the doujin magazine Kyushu Manga Exhibition. His inspiration to become a manga artist stemmed from the class library he encountered during his 2nd and 3rd years in elementary school. It included Osamu Tezuka's manga works such as New Treasure Island, King Kong, Dr. Mars, and Gentleman of the Moon. As a 15-year-old student at high school, he submitted his first story, The Adventures of Honey Bee, which was published in Manga Shonen, marking his debut as a manga artist. By this time, he was already recognized in central manga circles. A notable anecdote involves Osamu Tezuka, who while working on a manuscript during the stay in Kyushu, enlisted the help of the Kyushu Manga Research Society, including Tekai and Matsumoto as assistants. From this period until 1957, he published numerous manga in the Maniichi Elementary School newspaper. These were mainly short works featuring insects as protagonists. After graduating high school in 1957, he was set to serialize work in the Western Japanese edition of the Mainichi Shimbun. However, when the editor was suddenly replaced, the project was cancelled. Nonetheless, he secured a serialization in the monthly girls magazine Shoujo and moved to Tokyo. Though he initially lived in poverty, he later remarked that his sense of hunger fueled his creative drive. He began his career as shoujo manga artist, contributing to the magazines Shoujo and Shoujo Club irregularly. When he faced a slump in creating shoujo manga, he worked as a writer, conducting interviews with celebrities. From around 1960, he expanded to shonen magazines. Having grown up reading science fiction novels by authors like Yuzu Uno and H.G. Wells, he developed a love for creating sci-fi manga. However, many of his works were unpopular and frequently cancelled. His breakthrough came in 1971, with the serialization of I'm a Man in Weekly Shonen magazine. The series gained significant popularity and earned him the Kodansha Publishing Culture Award in 1972. In the fall of 1974, Matsumoto joined the production of the TV anime Space Battleship Yamamoto midway through the planning stage. Initially invited as a mechanical designer, Matsumoto, who had long aspired to create anime, became heavily involved in the project. Although the series struggled with low ratings during the original broadcasts, its popularity surged after reruns, culminating in a societal phenomenon with the release of the 1977 feature-length animated film. In that same year, he also started publishing 2 of his most recognizable manga, Galaxy Express 99 and Space Pirate Captain Harlock. The success of the Space Battleship Yamamoto sparked a broader anime boom. Matsumoto was subsequently engaged with Toei Animation as an image creator, contributing designs for TV anime series such as Planet Robot Vanguard Ace and SF Sayuku Starzinger. The popularity of Yamato also led to the animated adaptations of his own projects, including Galaxy Express 99 and Space Pirate Captain Harlock. Of these, Galaxy Express 999 became a massive hit, ushering what is dubbed as the Leiji Matsumoto boom. resulting in numerous of anime adaptations of his work. In 1982, with the release of Arcadia of My Youth and its sequel series Endless Orbit SSX, the Matsumoto anime boom began to wane. A planned 1983 summer theatrical anime film, Queen Emeraldas, was ultimately shelved, marking the end of the era. For nearly 20 years after this, no new TV anime adaptation of Matsumoto's works were produced. In the late 1980s, Matsumoto began taking on roles with organizations such as the Japanese space agency NASDA, while still continuing writing manga. By the late 1990s, creators who had grown up during the Matsumoto anime boom reignited interest in his works, leading to a resurgence in anime adaptations based on his stories. In 2001, a French house artist duo, Daft Punk, released an album called Discovery, where the goal of the music video of each song being a big movie when played in order of the album. But instead of it being live action, they landed on it being animated. And both being fans of Captain Harlock as children, they decided to head to Tokyo in hopes to ask their childhood hero, Leiji Matsumoto, to help with this project. Matsumoto joined with the creation of these video clips as a visual designer. And in the end, a movie by the name of Interstellar 5555 was released, featuring the entire Discovery album as a soundtrack. Eventually, Matsumoto became a professor at the Faculty of Media and Content at the Takarazuka University of Art and Design in 2006. In February of 2023, it was announced that Leiji Matsumoto had passed away at the age of 85. While over his life, he received several high-standing honors, like the Order of the Rising Sun, and was a Cavalier of the Order of Arts and Letters in France. For the first time, instead of a singular mangaka, I am talking about a manga artist group in one of these segments. The group in question is Clamp, one of the biggest names during the turn of the century. Clamp began as a doujinshi group with 11 people. The group made fan-made manga about Captain Tsubasa or fan-made yaoi about Senseiya and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In 1987, they started making original work as a group, with their first story being RG Vera. After their initial manga, the editor at the Shinshokan's Wing manga magazine asked the group to work for them, with the group accepting, submitting a 60-page story as a sample. Sadly, this was rejected, the editor criticizing the submission by stating everything is bad, claiming it is due to the lack of experience. The group were given another shot at publication, and the next one was liked by the publishing company. This time they submitted RG Veda, the story they've been collectively working on for several years now. The manga was eventually published in the Wings magazine in 1989. After moving to Tokyo and working on the first series, the members had gone down to 4, with Okyon, Nanao, Hishiki, Nakamura, Se, Akiyama and Omi all leaving Clamp between 1990 and 1993, with the 4 remaining members being Nanase Okawa, Mokona, Tsubaka Nekoi and Satsuki Igarashi. At this point, the group was hemorrhaging members, but they were still capable of releasing some of their most influential work during that time, like X and Tokyo Babylon. During the early 90s, they were publishing their acclaimed stories in several different magazines, showing no loyalty to one single publisher. It was also during this time that Clamp began working on one of the grandmothers of the isekai genre, Magic Knight Rebirth, that was published in Nakayoshi. Their next big series was also published in Nakayoshi, Card Captor Sakura, winning them several awards and a lot of acclaim, even being called the quintessential shoujo manga by critics. But even as they were writing Card Captor Sakura, they didn't stop writing different stories. In 2001, Chobits was released with XXX Holic following that up in 2003, and that one was followed up in 2003 by Tsubasa Reservoir of Chronicle in the same year. And both XXX Holic and Tsubasa were set in the same universe, even referencing one another. During the 15th anniversary, all members of Clamp changed their names, with Nekoi disliking the fact that people mistook her from the Rolling Stones member with the same name, while Mokona didn't like her given name as it sounded too immature, with the remaining 2 going with the flow after the first 2 also changed their names. In 2006, Clamp provided the character design for one of the hottest anime of the year, Code Geass, after the producer of Code Geass specifically asked for them. This was also the first time Clamp provided character designs for a series they themselves did not create. XXXaholic ended in 2009 and Tsubasa ended in 2011. Clamp being satisfied with both series, commenting on the difficulty of serializing 2 interconnected manga at the same time. Clamp is still making manga and working on character design for TV anime like Blood Sea and Cardfight Vanguard, as well as the revival of their all-time classic Card Captor Sakura in 2016. The impact Shotaro Ishinomori had on not just the manga industry but also the Japanese live-action industry cannot be understated. Ishinomori aspired to be a film director when he was young, but because his older sister was in poor health, Ishinomori spent a lot of his time creating drawings of things that happened at school or what he saw outside. Coming across Tezuka's New Treasure Island during elementary school, Ishinomori was so impressed by that work that he became an instant fan of Tezuka's work. In junior high, Ishinomori sent a fan letter to Tezuka and he received a reply, increasing Ishinomori's obsession with both Tezuka and manga. In his second year of junior high, Ishinomori submitted his first 4-panel manga to the Mainichi Junior High School newspaper, which was selected to be published, turning Ishinomori into an avid contributor to the newspaper. He was also sending submissions to Manga Shonen, which was accepting contributions, with Osamu Tezuka being in charge of critiquing new manga at the time. He gathered fellow contributors to Manga Shonen and established the Eastern Japan Manga Research Society, producing a handwritten circulation magazine titled A Drop of Ink. The first members of the society included members like the father of gag manga, Fujio Akatsuka. By this time, Ishinomori had already gained a reputation in the manga industry as a genius for Miyagi. In the spring of his second year of high school, he received a telegram from Osamu Tezuka requesting his assistance with work, where Ishinomori served as an assistant for Astro Boy. Through the mediation of Osamu Tezuka, Ishinomori made his debut in Manga Shonen. His debut work, Second Class Angel, was published in the New Year issue of Manga Shonen in December of 1954. In 1956, despite opposition from his strict father, Ishinomori moved to Tokyo upon graduating high school, thanks in part of the support of his sick sister, who convinced their parents to allow him to pursue his dreams. Ishinomori ended up living in Taiwaso, which housed many renowned manga artists, including Osamu Tezuka. After Ishinomori moved to Tokyo, his sick sister Yoshi also followed quickly after him to get a better medical treatment in the big city. Though the youngest male member of the Tokiwaso group, Ishinomori quickly rose to prominence. Fellow artists like Fujio Akatsuka spent more time assisting him than working on their own manga. However, tragedy struck in April 4, 1958, when Yoshi, who had become a beloved figure at the Tokiwaso, passed away suddenly. Losing his greatest supporter deeply affected Ishinomori's later artistic style. In 1959, he and Saruo Tsukioka, a former assistant of Tezuka, were sent to work on Toei Doga on the animation film Alakazam the Great. Ishinomori expressed a desire to join Toei Doga permanently and pursue animation, but he was dissuaded by Daisuke Shirakawa, a young Toei staff member at the time. Shirakawa noted that Ishinomori's artistic style was too unique for animation and urged him to focus on manga, promising that Toei would adapt his work into animation if they became popular. This promise later materialized and his connections with the Toei group extended to live-action special effects projects, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In 1964, he began the serialization of his first iconic work, Cyborg 009, in Shonen King. By this time, he was already a star manga artist. His instructional books Introduction to Manga Artist and the sequel Introduction to Being a Manga Artist became widely read. These groundbreaking guides covered everything from manga techniques to detailed story construction methods, serving as a bible for aspiring manga artists for many years. During this serialization of Cyborg 009, fans often visited his residence due to the fan mail address being publicly listed. Visits became so frequent that his assistants, which included people like Go Nagai, had to sign autographs in his place to maintain productivity. In 1966, he won the 7th Kodansha Children Manga Award for Mutant Sabu and Cyborg 009. From 1971, he provided the original story and manga adaptation for Toei's Kamen Rider, marking the beginning of his involvement in numerous tokusatsu, fathering this genre of live-action, effects-heavy television. Having initially aspired to become a film director, he also directed portions of Kamen Rider and Inuzamen, but the one that proved to be the farthest reaching was his involvement with Super Sentai, that was adapted in several countries under the name Power Rangers. In 1981, he became a director of the Japan Cartoonist Association. With the work he did for live action and animation, you think he might have no time to work on mangas, but that's not true at all. He kept on making mangas his entire life. In 1988, he won the 33rd Shogakukan Manga Award for works like Hotel and the 17th Japan Cartoonist Association Grand Prize for the manga Introduction to Japanese Economy. In 1989, he began an extensive project, Manga, History of Japan, and announced the Declaration of Manga, emphasizes manga as a serious medium. However, after being hospitalized in 1992 and receiving continuous treatment, he passed away in January 28, 1998, At the age of 60, Ishinomori was awarded posthumously the Order of the Rising Sun, the 27th Japan Cartoonist Association Award for all work he produced, the Minister of Education Award, and finally the second Tezuka Ozuma Cultural Prize in recognition of his significant contribution to manga and the manga industry over the years. From South Korea to the heart of many Japanese people, Boichi showed that with enough talent and time, anyone can make it in the cutthroat world of Japanese manga. With a love for painting and drawing since he was a young child, Mujik Park, also known by the pen name Boichi, had aspirations of becoming the president. However, at age 10, when he started to figure out that there's only one president and several manhwa artists, he decided that it was more achievable and switched his goals to become a manhwa artist. During his third year in high school, inspired by Kang Kwang-ok's Love Hymn Police, he decided to pursue creating shoujo manhwa. In his final year in high school before graduating, Boichi was asked to contribute in the school journal. The supervising teacher asked him to create a school-themed comic and a short story. So Boichi drew a cartoon and wrote a standalone sci-fi short story about an astronaut left adrift after a meteor had impacted his station. This story was published in the school journal in 1991. In 1993, Boichi debuted with Hello Captain, publishing in the Korean shoujo manhwa magazine Mir. However, Boichi's breakthrough came in 1994 with the serialization of Shoestring Manhwa Classroom in Wink. At the time, he was a rare male artist working in women manhwa magazines, and was even a member of the Korean Women Cartoonists Association. Notable works from this period include Tune, serialized in Wink, and Try, serialized in Bijou, for which singer Kim Kwon-young provided an original story and was one of the first examples of Boichi doing the art while someone else did the story. In 1997, Boichi extended the story he made for the school journal into The Shadow of Vacuum for a shoujo manhwa magazine, adding the scientific fact that humans don't explode in vacuum and can survive briefly. If you by the way didn't notice it from the beautiful space fact, Boichi majored in physics at the Boichi University and later also majored in film at the graduate school. From 1998 to 2001, Boichi worked as a manhwa critic for a renowned Korean film magazine. He expanded into adult comics, publishing the full-color series Feeling on the website Comics Today. However, the series was discontinued after 2 volumes due to the collapse of the Comics Today website. He also adapted the film The First Article of the Korean Constitution into a manhwa. From 2004 onwards, Boichi began working in Japan. In 2005, Boichi's first Japanese tankobon, Lovers in Winters, was published. And in 2006, Boichi's first serialized manga, Sun Can Rock, was published in the bi-weekly magazine Young King. The manga spawned a side story based on the character Human in 2011 and another based on Pickaxe in 2012. And another spin-off based on Human was released in 2012. Sun Can Rock was at that point Boichi's most popular manga and easily elevated his status as a mangaka, but mostly as an artist, as he was being asked to do the art for a lot of projects like Rakia and Brutality. In 2011, he started the serialization of another manga titled HE The Hunt for Energy in a new monthly magazine, Jump X. And this year he won the Grand Gunigi Prize for the one-shot It Was All for the Tuna. Another one of Boichi's serialization started in 2016 called Origin. And after finishing Origin, Boichi became the artist for the hugely successful Shonen Jump manga Dr. Stone. In 2019, Boichi received 2 awards for Dr. Stone for the Shonen category and Origin for the Best Manga category. During the years, Boichi has also worked on short adaptations of other IPs like Trigon Lost Planet, Terraformers Gaiden Asimov and One Piece Episode A. Boichi also worked on every Dr. Stone's anime as character designer. As a writing duo, Fujiko Fujio brought us one of the most iconic characters in all of Japanese media, inspiring many creators in and outside of Japan along the way. The duo of Fujiko Fujio consists out of the creative minds of Hiroya Fujimoto and Moto Hagio. When both of them were only 10 years old, they were inspired by Osamu Tezuka's manga Majin's Diary and New Treasure Island to pursue a career as manga artists themselves, frequently winning awards for reader-submitted competitions for magazines and newspapers. Eventually they decided working together would be way more efficient than working individually, and decided to start working together. One of their submissions, Angel Tama Tama-chan was published in December of 1951 in a newspaper where Tezuka had previously serialized work. Without initially realizing it, they made their professional debut as high school seniors. In 1952, after graduating high school, they met Tezuka for the first time. They were shocked that his popularity was supported by a staggering 700 pages of unpublished drafts, leaving a deep impression on them. Abiko took a job at the newspaper company while Fujimoto chose to dedicate himself to creating manga at home. Together they continued producing works, but their first serialized manga, 40,000 Years Adrift, was cancelled after 6 chapters. In July of 1953, they published their first standalone manga tankobon, Utopia: The Last World War. Commissioned by a publisher at Tezuka's recommendation, this work later became a legendary manga volume, gaining unparalleled premium value in Japan, with its first edition being valued at around 3 million yen after Leiji Matsumoto had his copy appraised. In 1954, the two decided to move to Tokyo after staying in a 2-tatami mat room in Riyoko Oku. They moved into Osamu Tezuka's old room in the Tokiwa-so, which later became a legendary apartment building. However, during the New Year's period in 1955, they caused an incident where they missed the deadlines on 5 out of 11 works. Although the publisher had their workload decreased for a while, they were not blacklisted. The following year, they secured new serializations and made a comeback. And they soon started their first weekly serialization, Prince of the Sea, and became a popular manga artist with 10 ongoing serializations. In 1961, the two moved out of Tokiwa-so and built their houses next to each other in Kawasaki City. In 1963, together with Shinjiki Suzuki, Shotaro Ishinomori, Jiro Tsunada and others, they established the animation studio Studio Zero. In 1964, they created Obaka no Kutaro as part of the studio's magazine division, which became a huge hit. The series was adapted into a TV anime, leading to the social phenomenon known as the Obaku boom. Following this, they released a numerous amounts of works, and many of these were adapted into TV anime or television dramas. In 1968, as Gegeka magazines targeting adult readers emerged, the duo ventured into adult manga. Abiko gained prominence with his satirical short story series starting with The Laughing Salesman, producing many works with dark humor throughout the 1970s. He also penned long-running serials like Miss Dracula. Fujimoto focused more on sci-fi, crafting numerous short stories such as Minotaur's Plate. During the 1970s, Abiko remained active in creating works for younger audiences. He began the autobiography Manga Michi series, a landmark in the duo's history and the longest running series by the Fujiko Fujio. After the completion of Umbayashi Denkai and Senbi, Fujimoto shifted his focus to an educational magazine from Shogakukan. In 1969 he launched Doraemon, which gradually gained popularity after its 1973 anime adaptation. In 1977, Korokoro Comics was established, offering children more Doraemon content. The series' second anime adaptation in 1979 sparked an unprecedented Doraemon boom. This popularity proved enduring, with annual movies beginning in 1980 and continuing for the next 40 years, and continuing for over 40 years. In 1986, Abiko took over the role of caregiver of his sick wife, while Fujimoto underwent cancer surgery and took an hiatus. In late 1987, they announced their decision to work independently, starting anew as two separate artists. The last collaboration was a 1976 Obaka no Kutaro one-shot created just because of the Doraemon boom. After going solo, Abiko produced a 1990 film Childhood Days, which won several awards. His The Laughing Salesman series became popular after following its 1989 anime adaptation. He continued creating children's manga, including Parasol Hanbi and Prince of Demokin. Fujimoto made a lot of works between 1988 and 1996, but his primary focus was producing the Doraemon long story series annually until passing on September 23, 1996. The Doraemon spring movie tradition has persisted to this day. Abiko remained active, continuing the Manga Michi series and seeing a live-action adaptation of several of his work, one of which, Ninja Hattori-kun, became especially popular in India, leading to a joint Japanese-Indian anime production in 2012 onwards. New episodes of Ninja Hattori-kun are still released via YouTube and TV as of 2023. On April 6, 2022, Abiko also passed away. The duo's extensive body of work continues to have a profound and lasting impact on society, reflecting the enduring legacy of Fujiko Fujio's creativity and storytelling. Inio Asano grew up as an introverted child, preferring the solitude of drawing to playing outdoors. In his early years, he sketched cars and dinosaurs for fun, But by 4th or 5th grade, his interest shifted to drawing battle scenes inspired by Final Fantasy, influenced by his classmates. He was also fascinated by Transformers toys, not just playing with them, but designing his own Transformer paper models. Much of his early reading came from his older sister's collection. The first manga to leave a lasting impression on him was High School Kumonogumi by Matoe Shinzawa. He also enjoyed classics like Doraemon and the anime Gegege no Kitaro. Contemporary manga rarely caught his attention. However, by late elementary school, Asano discovered Weekly Shonen Jump, where he enjoyed the mainstream hits like Dragon Ball and absurdist titles like Shinjuki by Mangataro. His sister's influence extended to introducing him to Itsurun Desu by Sensho Yoshida. Television was another major interest, but rather than pursuing a career in TV, manga felt a more attainable goal for him. To hone his craft, he studied manga making guides, including a Captain Tsubasa fanbook. Lacking access to specialized tools like dip pens, young Asano began drawing manga in notebooks, using pencils and regular pens. By middle school, he finally acquired proper tools and started creating a more published work. Uncomfortable with the delinquent culture in his hometown, Asano opted to attend a liberal public high school in Tsukawa City. His environment allowed him to thrive socially and creatively. He joined a heavy metal cover band as a bassist and explored underground manga and music. While he abandoned formal studies, Asano dedicated himself to drawing, often creating a 4-panel manga during each class. During his second year in high school, Asano submitted a 4-page gag manga during spring break. It was published as a substitute for Naoki Yamamoto's work in Big Comic Spirit Special Manpaku. This marked his debut, occurring just a week after his submission. Despite muted reaction, Asano was determined to prove his manga wasn't just for kids. He aimed to publish in mainstream magazines like Spirits rather than underground outlets. Asano enrolled in the departments of arts at Tomogawa University, majoring in information design. He chose the institution because one of his inspirations, Anko Mochizuki, had graduated there. Moving to Machida, Tokyo, Asano shifted from gag manga to story-driven works. Despite several one-shots being published, his career stalled due to a conflict with editors and a time of artistic self-discovery, which he later described as a time when everything felt futile and went wrong. In 2001, Asano's work Hello from Outer Space won first GX Rookie Award from monthly Sunday Gene X and was published in its June issue. This marked the beginning of his transition to drawing digitally, which he fully embraced with his first serialized work, What a Wonderful World. In 2007, Asano published his masterpiece, Goodnight Punpun, running for 6 years, first in Weekly Young Sunday and later in Big Comic Spirits. The manga received critical acclaim. Goodnight Punpun is known for its innovative portrayal of the protagonist and his family as bird-like stick figures, contrasting with realistic depictions of other characters. This visual choice emphasizes the protagonist's isolation and detachment from those around him. From 2014, Asano serialized Dead Demons Dead Destruction in Big Comic Spirits. He followed this up with Downfall in Big Comic Superior in 2017 and Yushatachi in Manga 1 in 2018. Asano held the World of Inui Asano exhibition in Tokyo and in Nagoya. In 2023, he began serializing Mujina in the Deep in Big Comic Superior. While several of Asano's work have received adaptations, Goodnight Punpun stands out as one of the most critically acclaimed manga that has yet to be adapted in any other form of media. When it comes to producing art, there is no mangaka quite like Hirohiko Araki. Araki enjoyed immersing himself in his own world from a young age and began drawing manga early in his life. Around middle school, he began to vaguely aspire to become a manga artist. He was an avid reader of works by Iki Kajiwara, such as Star of the Giants and Ashita no Joe. He was also influenced by the logical storytelling style of Senpai Shirato's Tale of Ninja and Kamui Gaiden. In literature, he frequently read works by Edogawa Rampo and Sherlock Holmes series. In high school, he read nearly all the popular manga of his childhood and devoured Weekly Shonen Jump and Monthly Shonen Jump cover to cover. His favorite titles included Put It On the Ring, Cobra, and Ajihe the Cook. At age 16, Araki felt the urgency to also create a manga after seeing his peers, like the duo Yudame Tango, had already debuted in Weekly Shonen Jump. This prompted him to submitting his first manga in his third year in high school. He continued submitting works and, while attending vocational school, debuted in 1980 with Poker Under Arms, earning second place in the 20th Tezuka Award. Just before graduating high school, Araki visited Weekly Shonen Jump editorial office for the first time. He had already received honorable mentions in the Tezuka Award, but felt unsatisfied with with the lack of detailed feedback. With no Shinkansen service yet between Tokyo and Sendai, he made the 5-hour trip to the office to get direct input on improving his work. Where Araki was called for not using white correction fluid on manuscript, encountering editors who dismissed his work after just seeing the cover page. After his debut, Araki continued living in Sendai while working on the Magical BT for a weekly Shonen Jump. Although this was a 1.5 year gap between the series approval and the serialization, Araki remained productive, creating multiple drafts during this time. However, he was anxious about his technical ability to sustain a weekly schedule since he worked alone. During this period, his editor, Ryosuke Kawashima, encouraged him to read widely, not just manga but also works on dark and esoteric topics. Araki found this challenging but rewarding, and he and Kawashima would often discuss the books he read. After moving to Tokyo, Araki created a short-lived series, Boa, marking the beginning of the focus on battle-centric series. He believed that even physically weaker individuals could triumph by overcoming their limitations, a theme that set this work apart from the muscle-bound heroes popular at the time. In 1987, Araki began JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which became a long-running series spanning several parts, a historic manga following the Joestar family line, each part focusing on a different generation, all having a few things in common, primarily with their names abbreviated all to JoJo. During the third part of his series, Araki introduced the concept of stand abilities, redefining battle manga and influencing the genre profoundly. Critics have noted that modern battle manga owe much to JoJo. JoJo's first endeavor in animation was in 1993 with a 13-episode OVA of the super popular Part 3 storyline. However, due to a controversy of pages of the Quran appearing in the original OVA, causing the OVA to cease distribution in the West, with the English translation release of the manga also halting. While the earlier mentioned scene never appeared in the manga, Araki and Viz did redraw some pages to remove Islamic imagery from the manga. Araki held his first solo exhibition, JoJo in Paris, in France in 2003. While Steel Ball Run was still ongoing, the series moved to a monthly magazine, Ultra Jump. The switch allowed Araki to expand his storytelling, moving away from the compact arcs typical for weekly serials. He also began incorporating ethical themes, reflecting his maturing perspective as an artist. In 2007, Araki became the first Japanese manga artist featured on the cover of American science journal Cell, and in 2009, Araki was one of the 5 artists selected by Musée du Louvre to create original works. His piece, Rohan at the Louvre, starred JoJo's character Rohan Kishibe and was shown at the exhibition titled The Louvre Invites Comic Strip Artists, which was created to show the diversity of comics. Rohan at the Louvre was highly appraised. The following year, Rohan at the Louvre was published in France and ran in Japan's Ultra Jump. The JoJo series reached its 100th volume in 2010, coinciding with the release of Steel Ball Run's Volume 20. In 2012, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series celebrated its 25th anniversary since its serialization began. To commemorate the milestone, a lot of things happened for JoJo, like several art exhibitions from Araki, an anime announcement, and while not specifically to celebrate the 25th anniversary, 2012 was also the year that Araki was featured in the magazine Spur, which included Araki's collaboration with Gucci, receiving awards for the art he produced for that magazine. In 2013, a global collaboration with Gucci's creative director Frida Giannini was displayed at the windows of over 70 Gucci flagship stores worldwide. The Hiroyuki Araki original art exhibition in Florence was held in Gucci's showroom in Florence, Italy. Araki also gave a lecture at the Homecoming Day seminar in Sendai, held by the Tohoku University. He also conducted a public lecture titled Manga Dialogue on the Hongo campus of the University of Tokyo. JoJo Lie, in the 8th part of the JoJo Bizarre Adventure, won the Grand Prize in Manga Division at the 17th Japan Media Arts Festival. And honestly, we still have a decades to go, and Araki has many more exhibitions he provided art for, or that he held in his name, or awards that he won. And yes, with all that, he is still working on JoJo. Maybe I did forget Araki in my previous video, but now here he is, among the greatest, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Durcoin, and thank you for watching.